Morning, Thursday morning. I thought it'd be a good time to take a look at how things are looking for the rest of the week and the weekend. And the weather's in a very changeable mode at the moment. For many of us, it's a brighter day today. We've got quite a bit of sunshine around, but we've also got showers coming in from the west. And over the next few days, we start to see a bit of a change in the weather. We've got high pressure building to the south of the UK over the continent. And what that's going to do is start to feed a very mild, but also very moisture laden southwesterly flow across the country. When winds come in from this direction, in these kind of setups, we can see quite a lot of rainfall across the west. And this time it's no exception. I think western areas will see quite a bit of quite heavy rainfall to come, especially over the weekend. Then into next week, we start to see the run up to Christmas. All eyes on the cold weather. Are we going to see any snow? I've seen so many people asking the question about snow for Christmas. What I can say, things will turn colder through next week. And certainly, yes, I think towards the end of next week, some places will be seeing some wintry showers. I'm not saying this is going to last until Christmas. There are some signs. This could be just for a few days, but it's a long way off yet. It's Christmas, a lot of things going to change in 2 weeks. But certainly the trend is through next week for things to start to turn colder from the northwest. We'll talk about that in a minute. But just for now, I just want to reiterate something which I've been posting on the Facebook page over the past day or two about the risk of ice. Now, temperatures overnight have risen for many places. Certainly very mild across the west this morning, 9-10 degrees across western coast and isles. But come further across the mainland, and certainly inland, the temperatures are still colder. Now, certainly colder at the surface. Cold air sits at the surface. The ground is very cold. The ground has been very cold for some time now. We had that cold spell of weather last week. The ground has not warmed up. It does not warm up at the same rate as the air does. So despite the temperature in the air being maybe 5-6 degrees, the temperature down at the surface can still be freezing. And this is the reason why we see black ice forming when the air temperature is higher. If you think your car will warn you about ice and start flashing about an ice warning when the air temperature is reading 3, the reason for that is because the air temperature at 3 will quite often mean the temperature at the surface can still be freezing. This morning is no exception. A number of places this morning have seen air temperatures of 3 degrees. The surface temperature is still freezing. So something just to be aware of. Just because the temperature out there feels milder, just because it might have rained overnight, does not mean to say the ice risk's gone. Yesterday across Caithness, for example, there were a lot of car accidents. I think I've seen 15 different accidents around Wick and Thurso area yesterday, all caused due to black ice and people being caught out. This morning, again, I've seen several reports of ice being recorded, yet the temperature is still 4 degrees in the air. Something to be aware of. I keep banging on about this on Facebook. I'm just trying to get the message across that you just do not get caught out on a morning like this. It's 5 degrees here with me in Carbridge. 3 miles away, the air temperature is 0. It just shows that the cold air can still linger in these frosty sort of pockets. Just be aware of that. Okay, well, what I'll do is, as we always do, I'll share my computer screen and start talking you through some of the charts, explaining what's going to be happening over the next few days. So first, we've got the temperatures for this morning. I was just mentioning the cold air. You can see here just how isolated we can see the cold. We've got 0 degrees there, just literally 1 mile away. It's 4 degrees, and the same is happening in many other places. This is going down towards the south of Aviemore. 0 degrees in Kincraiglock, 5 degrees in places nearby. So you can get caught out here, less of an ice risk. Come down towards Kincraig, as you can see, 0 degrees. It's going to be -2 at the surface, so cold. And this is the case across Aberdeenshire. You leave the coast where it may be 6-7 degrees, come further inland, we've still got temperatures at or near freezing. There's certainly a risk of icy patches. So it's just something to be aware of. And when you're travelling around in the mornings, how the temperature can be very different from one place to the next. No such risk across the west. Look, very mild, 10 degrees on 11 degrees on Isla Look, 10 across the western side of Mold, Colonsay, down across South Uist, across parts of Skye. So it's very mild, and that really is the signal of what we've got coming in over the next few days. So if we have a look at the rainfall radar image, everything's coming in from the west today. We've got a strong westerly flow. The winds are strong across the west, possibly gales and exposure, but a good wind blowing everywhere. And that westerly wind is feeding in plenty of showers from the Atlantic. You can see these look all the way down the west side. Some quite heavy ones showing up there across western parts of Sutherland and Wester Ross. And the showers are stretching all the way down the west side, look all the way down to Ayrshire. Some of these will run inland, but I think as they run further inland, they will start to weaken and become light and quite drizzly. You can see there's a few here making their way through to Glasgow, 1 or 2 out towards Dumfries, and there's some coming in towards Dalwhinnie and the Western Cairngorms. And I think the bulk of the showers will be across the west, running across the north coast at times. You can see a few along the North Sutherland and Caithness coast, and they'll also be running into Orkney and Shetland as well through the day. But the heaviest ones certainly across the west, where we could see hail. And I wouldn't be surprised maybe to see the odd rumble of thunder in some of these heavier ones right close towards the west coast. Now, further towards the east, the cloud is more broken. There'll be plenty of sunshine for many eastern areas. It'll be quite a pleasant day with some good spells of sunshine to come across the east. Now, if I look at some of the webcam this morning, you can see shower clouds here across the west. This is this scene in Fort William. You can see come further east, we've got much clearer skies. Look, this is across Aberdeenshire, and that's going to be the case. I think many eastern areas will have a really good day today. Plenty of sunshine with nothing more than the odd very light passing shower, if that. I think for many it will stay dry. Now, as we go into tonight, we continue the very similar pattern. The showers across the west, I think they become fewer and lighter and less frequent as we get through the night. But I think across Shetland and Orkney, we could see the showers still quite frequent for a time. But certainly elsewhere, it'll be dry. There'll be plenty of clear skies around. And just like on recent nights, we'll see these temperatures dropping close to freezing inland towards the east. And we see these temperature inversions set up in situations like this. These inland sheltered places where shelter from the wind, basically, more sheltered spots, we'll see temperatures fall down close to freezing. Now, the ground is not as moist as it's been, so the ice risk is going to be less. But nonetheless, I think a few inland spots could well see a touch of frost and some icy patches towards the east tonight. So it's the eastern part of the country, from eastern Sutherland down through Easter Ross, through the Cairngorms, through Aberdeenshire, down into Angus, eastern Perthshire, parts of Fife perhaps, and certainly down towards the borders. There is a risk of a touch of frost for inland areas, but certainly further towards the west, the north coast and across the Isles, much milder temperatures overnight between 5 and 8 degrees, with a strong westerly wind blowing in from the west, bringing these further showers. Now, as we go into the next few days, we're starting to see the change happening. This is the situation just now. We've got this air mass across the UK, reasonably mild air mass, temperatures around about average at this moment in time. But certainly as we go through into Friday, we start to see a change. You can see, look, we start to pull in this milder air mass from the southwest. You can see by the orange colours. What we will see is after a fine start for many across the east, excuse me, we'll see a weather front, a warm front approach from the west, bringing thicker cloud. That will bring outbreaks of rain and drizzle across many western areas as we go through the afternoon, whereas further east it says dry, but it will be cloudy. I think the best of the brightness becoming restricted to the extreme east and northeast by the afternoon, so it will turn cloudy for many of us. Outbreaks of rain and drizzle across the west. And then we see this much milder conditions, as you can see. This is the air mass anomaly, so it's a difference from average. You can see by the key at the bottom, these orange temperatures much warmer than average air mass spreading across the UK through Saturday, and you can see through Saturday that's the situation. Through Sunday it's still there. In fact, even milder air. We're pulling this air up all the way from the tropics, coming in from the Canaries as well, from the Azores, and this all gets dragged in across the UK. Very, very mild. The air mass is some 10 degrees above average for the time of year. But you can see this colder air just to the north of us. It just try and get back in. There were some hints that Sunday we're going to turn cooler and more showery, but it's looking increasingly likely that we keep this quite warm air mass across the UK through Sunday. And in fact, look into Monday as well. That mild air mass is still there, but just notice it's just starting to get shunted away eastwards through Monday, and we start to see these cooler air mass coming down from the northwest behind the frontal system. So you can see that situation by the time we get to Tuesday. Now, we'll talk more about the air masses in a minute, but I just want to highlight the rainfall as well. Now, this is the accumulated rainfall between now, so Thursday, and the end of the weekend. Just notice how the figures tot up across the west as we go through Friday. You see that's Friday. We start to see more rain appearing across the west. Nothing much really, as you can see. It's mainly light rain and drizzle through Friday and Friday night and into the early part of Saturday. But as we go through Saturday, certainly through Saturday night into Sunday, just look how the rainfall amounts are totting up across the west, getting quite heavy rain. And certainly by the time we get through to the end of Sunday, western areas here, you can see shown by these vivid pinks, the whites, the greys. It's these areas, so it's parts of Skye, Wester Ross, Loch Alsh, parts of Loch Arbour, down into Argyll, Western Sutherland, parts of Wester Ross, perhaps northern Argyll, as I mentioned, will see the heaviest of the rain. But if I just change the map and just home in just on Scotland, you can see by the end of Sunday, look, it's really quite wet. We're seeing some quite heavy rainfall totals across the west. Perhaps this could create some flood problems. But it has been quite dry recently across these western areas. Most of the rain's been across the east, so we might just get away with it. But there'll certainly be a lot of surface water, and as much as 100 millimetres, I suspect, in some places between Friday probably and the end of Sunday. So really quite wet. But just notice across the east, far, far less rain. And this is very typical of this kind of setup. If I just bring up the back to this chart again, you can see, as I mentioned, the feed is coming in from the southwest, very, very moisture laden, very mild air comes in from the west, and it basically dumps all the moisture on the west. If you remember back to your school days, if you did geography, you used to talk about rain shadow areas. Well, this is very typical. Bring the chart back up of a rain shadow area. The rain piling into the west, getting sucked in by the hills, very, very wet conditions across these western high ground areas. But get to the east of high ground, much drier, as you can see. Look, probably parts of Moray and Aberdeenshire, 5, the Border Sea, no rain at all this weekend. It'll be dry, probably cloudy, but dry, but also very mild. I mentioned the mild air mass, as you can see here. This is the air mass. This is the upper temperature about 1.5 miles above the surface. So very, very mild air. But what we will see is the temperatures at the surface also respond. It'll be very mild indeed, I think, coming over the weekend. If I just change and just show you this chart here, which is the expected maximum temperatures as we go through the weekend. So you can see, look, across the northeast, we've got 12, 13 degrees here. I suspect it'll be a bit higher. These temperatures tend to be a bit underdone. I think we could well see 14 or 15 degrees across northeast and Aberdeenshire sometime between Saturday and Monday. So it's gonna be quite mild. But you can see through Monday, look, the milder air gets shunted away south. We start to see these cooler conditions coming down from the north. So still very mild across the central belt and the south. Look, as you can see through Monday, still seeing temperatures here into the low teens. Now, as we go into next week, as I mentioned earlier, all eyes on the Christmas period. We start to see a bit of a change. We start to see this milder air get pushed away south, as I mentioned. And then as we go through the week, we start to see colder air coming down from the northwest. You can see here, look, these colder conditions start to edge in. So if we just run the charts ahead, you can see that's the situation on Wednesday. We've got quite a strong northwesterly wind blowing across the country. Colder air, not cold, but colder. We're losing all this warm air here, as you can see. It's pushed away, but it's still relatively mild across the Atlantic. It's only a brief window, look, of colder air as we go through Wednesday with showers and strong winds. Showers may be wintry across the hills, but nothing of any significance. And then as we go into Thursday, really, we keep this sort of cooler conditions, but a brief change as we go through Thursday. We've got sorry about that. Put that back to where it was. A brief change as we go through Thursday. We see this milder air just making a return from the west. Now, the reason for that is a deep area of low pressure developing to the south of Iceland. Now, that is going to track sort of southeast, heading our way. But just notice the brief wedge of milder air, which is locked in between a warm front and a cold front. So this is called a warm sector. So we'll see wind and rain coming in from the west. But just to say, just notice this colder air coming down on the backside of this low. Now, as this low pressure system tracks steadily southwards, as you can see, quite a deep feature. We could see some really unsettled, very windy conditions towards the end of the week. And that low pressure system tracks south across Scotland, then eventually east in towards Denmark. But as it does that, just notice this wraparound of much colder air coming down from Iceland and Greenland towards the end of next week. Now, this is still a week away. A lot of things could change in a week. This low pressure may be further south, it may be further east, and that has a big change on what could happen. But as it stands now, there's good agreement in the models that this low pressure system will drift southwards through Scotland, then eventually eastwards into Denmark and eventually into Sweden. But as it does that, like I say, we've got this much colder northerly air mass coming in on the backside of this, because the winds rotate anti-clockwise around the low pressure. So everything is basically going like this. It's all running like this, you see. So we've got this colder conditions coming in. Now, with these colder conditions, there'll be plenty of blustery, squally showers, hail, possibly thundery across the west, but increasingly wintry as well. As these colder gets more established across the country, we'll see the showers turning increasingly wintry. I think with some snow down to quite low levels. by the end of the week. Now, if we continue to run through the charts, you can see this is what I've just shown you. This is by next weekend. We're still cold. Look, we've still got a cold northerly airflow, very cold conditions as we're running towards that's Christmas Eve. As you can see, still cold. There'll be snow showers around. If these charts come off, that is, there'll be snow showers around, icy conditions, and some frost around night and morning. But you can see as we go through the Christmas period, look, we just seem to we've got a bit of a attempt from the west to bring something a bit milder in, but this is so far away, and things are likely to change. But it just shows the potential is there towards the Christmas period, or certainly towards the beginning of the Christmas period, of this cold air mass being across the UK. But as you can see, the milder air is just trying to edge back in as we go into Christmas Day, and it does look like over Christmas, look, the milder air does come back in again. It turned actually very mild again from the west over the Christmas period. So there's a lot to play for, but one thing is for certain, it's going to turn very mild and very cloudy across the country over the weekend. Strong southwesterly winds, gales across the west could cause some problems with ferries, maybe across the Minch towards the Western Isles, and maybe some of the Northlink ferries could be affected this weekend by strong winds. But certainly very wet across the west this weekend. Some heavy rain, drier towards the east, and very mild for all of us. Temperatures widely in double figures, as high as 14 or maybe 15 degrees across Aberdeenshire towards Sunday and Monday. So yeah, very mild. Then as we go into next week, as I say, it turns gradually colder from the northwest, showery, strong cold northwesterly winds, possibly some wintry showers, higher ground, and certainly towards the end of next week, some signs we could see a more widespread cold snap with cold northerly winds bringing some wintry showers and a return to frost. If that lasts until Christmas, it's difficult to say. I will keep you posted on that as we go through the course of next week. Okay, well, thanks for watching the videos. Please make sure you keep liking and subscribing to the YouTube channel and commenting and watching the videos on YouTube. It's a big help to me. If you can continue to do that, that'd be much appreciated. Okay, well, enjoy the rest of your day and the weekend, despite it being quite wet, especially for the west. Bye for now.